Blog Talk Radio.
And looking at beautiful stories of his hilm, tolerance, and his truthfulness, and his trustworthiness, and these beautiful stories, it's beyond this. He is the tissues of our lives. He is our intercessor on the day of judgment. He is our door. Through him we can access Al-Jannah, and without him we can never access Al-Jannah. This is why in the past 70, 80 years, since the establishment of the Saudi royal family and the Saudi dynasty in Saudi Arabia, so-called Saudi Arabia, I have never seen any country hijacked by one family. I haven't seen any wealth concentrating in one family. If divided, it could suffice for the whole.
Cleaver, backbiting, slander, lies. Talking about people who have belief of Jahmi. A Jahmi is a pantheist, is a person who believes that Allah exists, but he doesn't believe Allah is anything. Where do you get that? Where can you get the equation from? You don't even equate the two. Where? You don't believe Allah is anything. Oh, you know, we don't agree with you. We believe, they believe Allah is everywhere. They believe Allah is everywhere. When did you ever hear a person say this? Usually you have to say something first before somebody says anything. Before the person even say anything like that. I can't call you a fasik. I can't say, yo, this brother commits zina if I don't know he commits zina.
فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله. As for those who have an illness in their heart, they follow that which is obscure, that which is not totally clear. When a person initially reads it, if they do not have knowledge about other things that are not mentioned in that verse, if they're not already a scholar and they understand all of the possible meanings of that verse, and whether linguistically or contextually, like how the context is being used, a person can go astray from the same Quran. So those who have illness in their heart or misguidance or deviation in their heart, look for those type of verses, seeking fitna and seeking to give the interpretation thereof. And no one, and no one knows this interpretation except for Allah.
Because you have, it's a shame because you have certain masters who complain that the masters that call them deviant are sending their members to their master for sadaqah. You know, they come to you for sadaqah, you don't want to give them sadaqah, so you send them to the deviants to get sadaqah, which is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And you have more members than anybody have in the city, but you can't give your own members sadaqah. And I have various complaints of sisters who said that she was about to lose her house, and she was a member of the masjid. And she went to the masjid and said, look, all I need for y'all to do is put up half, and I'll find my brother to put up the other half. And they say, well, sister, we really don't know you like that, you know, we don't, blah, blah, blah. So she went to a masjid, you know, that didn't know her, and they gave her all the money for the house. Don't even know her from a can of spray paint. But they follow the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, so she stopped going to that masjid. You know, because she don't understand how she paid her zakat there for all the years. She attended that masjid. She, you know, tell people it's the best masjid to go to. They wouldn't even give her money to save her house.
Because it's a hustle. Money's supposed to go up, not down. That's part of the reason by the name calling. Anybody who's an imam or gives a speech, know that if you want to sell tape, all you got to do is talk about somebody.
You know, for those who listen and want to take messages back, because that's what you do, if you want to subdue us, let's have a public meeting. Let's anywhere you want to meet. Because it's getting corny. Let's stop talking over the internet. Let's stop talking through MySpace and all these places. Let's sit down and let's deal with the issue. Let's debate. Stop cutting corners. Stop calling people that we're affiliated with, having backdoor meetings, trying to ostracize us and get us kicked out of masjid. It can't happen. Let's sit down like men and deal with it like men deal with it. Can't do it no more. This is what children do. Men sit down and we talk about our problems. We deal with it like men. We either agree or we disagree and we go on about our way. But when you're backdooring people, this is a cowardly act.
Allah Ta'ala says that we send down from the Quran that which is a healing, a cure, and a mercy for the believers. but it does not increase the evildoers except in loss. So that means that the Quran can do either way. It can be your poison or it can be your cure. And if you have a person that has poisonous ideas about the Quran and Sunnah, they can use that same Quran and Sunnah to poison you with it.
MashaAllah.
A person, like look, Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran too that He's the one who sent down the book. From it there are ayats that are muhkamat, that are clear-cut, they're obvious, clear-cut verses, and others that are mutashabihat. So Allah Ta'ala mentions, now this is all the Quran. This is not different books, this is the same Quran, right here, the same Quran. Some people will read it, and they have sickness already in their heart, and will go astray.
MashaAllah. One question for the Mu'minun. Have you ever cried because of sins you have committed? Inshallah. Did Shaitan ever make you feel like the past can't be repented? Yes. Do you really love Allah, or just words that you utter? Do you feel like your innocence has been drained by the gutter? Yes. Can you love Sunnah and still love to backbite? No. How many days you woke up Muslim and kafir by night? Allahu Alam. If you was on trial for being mu'min, would they have enough evidence to convict you? If you die right now, how long would it take for the Ummah to forget you? Allahu Alam. Can you answer the questions in the grave, or do you have to study for that test? Inshallah. I hope so. And what will be the words you utter at the moment of your last breath? What are you prepared to sacrifice for the Sunnah? Did you ever take part in spreading the vicious rumor? Allahu Alam. If so, how far did it go? Allahu Alam. How many people really know? Allahu Alam. On the day of judgment, how many mu'mins you gonna owe? Why are you the last to Jummah and the first to leave? Is that an indication of how much you really believe? Why do you say things out of your mouth that's not in your heart? Allahu Alam. Don't you know mu'mins live in the light and kuffars live in the dark? I do. How can a month go by and you miss every salat? Where is your desire? What boldness you show for the fire. Muslims and Muslimas, feel the noise from a hopeful dreamer. It's either heaven or hell, Mahdi or the Dajjal, Allah or Shaitan, fly girl novels or ayahs of the Holy Quran, standing on street corners at the end of the block, or at the masjid making salat. You can either listen or turn your head. Because this earth is a paradise for the grateful dead.
Deen over dunya.
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 Deen over dunya show. Deen over dunya show. I am Sister Aisha and this is the Deen over dunya show.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host, Faithful Haq, and you're listening to the Deen over Dunya show, the #1 show in America, mashallah. Tonight's class, Maliki Fiqh class, the Rissala of Ibn Abi Zayd has been canceled. We posted on Facebook that it has been canceled. But we will continue with the show. We will play a lecture about one of the great scholars of the past. If you still want to listen to the lecture, we will be playing this right now, inshallah. The lecture will be about Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Who was the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani? In the world of knowledge, in the world of ilm, in any book, when the word hafiz is mentioned by itself, then there is only one person that is being referred to, and that is none other than the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Some scholars, like the great Jalaluddin Suyuti rahmatullah alayhi, who follow the Shafi school of thought. And this man himself was phenomenal. He's a man of over 500 works. He would describe the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani as a sign from amongst the signs of Allah. You know, these are powerful words from a powerful man. A sign from amongst the signs of Allah. Some scholars would describe the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani as the second Bayhaqi. Some went as far as saying this, that Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani was the Imam al-Bukhari of his time. And the great master, Izzuddin Abdul Salam al-Maqdisi, Shaykh al-Salahiyah, went as far as saying this, إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ مِثْلَ الْبُخَارِ فَلَا يَقْصُرْ عَنْ. That if he was not like Bukhari, one thing is for sure, that the status of this man was no less than the status of the great Bukhari himself. But the Muhaddith of Hijaz, Najmuddin Umar ibn Fahd, he would say, فَلَوْ حَلَلْتُ بَيْنَ الرُّكْنِ وَالْمَكَامِ وَحَلَفْتُ أَنِّي مَا رَأَيْتُ بِعَيْنِيَّ مِثْلَهُ وَلَمْ تَرَى عَيْنُ مَنْ رَآهُ مِثْلَهُ وَلَا رَأَتْ عَيْنُهُ مِثْلَ نَفْسِهِ لَبَرَتْ. He would say that if I was to stand between the black stone, the Hajar al-Aswad, and the Maqam Ibrahim, and the place of Ibrahim, and while standing there I took an oath, I took a qasam, I swear by Allah, my eyes have never seen a scholar like the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. And then I took this oath a step further, and I said, I swear by Allah, the eyes of those that have seen Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani have never seen a scholar like him. Then I took this oath even further, and I said, I swear by Allah, the eyes of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani have never seen a man like himself. Then my oath would stand, and I would not have violated my oath. You know, when the great Hafiz al-Iraqi was on the point of death, and in a minute I'm going to tell you who Hafiz al-Iraqi was. When he was on the point of death and he was asked the $1 million question, who have you left behind you? Who can take your place? Which scholar can take your seat? The great Hafiz al-Iraqi mentioned 3 people. The first scholar that he mentioned was the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. The second scholar that he mentioned was the great son of his, Abu Zur'ah. And the third scholar that he mentioned was the great Haythami. You know, the remarkable thing is, when Iraqi made a mention of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, that he is the person that I'm leaving behind that will be able to take my place, in terms of knowledge, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani was only 33 years of age, which in terms of knowledge is this, that he was only a child. In terms of knowledge, 33 is like a baby. Now, for you to understand what the great Iraqi said, let me put it into context. Who was the great Iraqi, Hafiz al-Iraqi? My friends, he memorized the Quran at the age of 8. Hafiz al-Iraqi, he memorized the entire Quran at the age of 8. He memorized half of Al-Hawi, a book in Islamic jurisprudence on the fiqh of Shafi'i. He memorized half of this book in 15 days. You can say subhanallah, but I know you haven't comprehended what I've said. Because you don't know what Al-Hawi is, nor have you seen it. So what I'm going to say to you is, when this conference finishes, and you can actually find a library that's got this, go have a look at it. And then open it and look at the text of this book. And when you see this, know what you will say to me? that this is beyond belief. How could he have memorized half of this book in 15 days? And when you say this to me, I will turn around and say to you, let me tell you, my brother, forget Al-Hawi, put it to one side. He memorized 400 lines of Imam in just one day. See, you go smart. 400 lines of Imam. You know, when I don't get a response, it means you're baffled. 400 lines, except for the Bradfordians. 400 lines of Imam in 400 days. You know, this is phenomenal. The human mind can't comprehend it. Let me just pull that for you in Quranic terms. In Quranic terms, an average page of the Quran has how many lines? 13 lines. The South African print has 13 lines. One juz of the Quran has around 28 pages, 28 sides. So if you were to times 28 by 13, you would get 364 lines. 364 lines. You know, that in Quranic terms is phenomenal. Where will you find in history a man, if we were to put this in Quranic terms, 364 lines, he led 400 in a day. In Quranic terms, this is phenomenal because it adds to over one juz of the Quran in one day. Which basically means indirectly that he was in a position of memorizing the Quran in 30 days, 30 juz. And this was not the Quran. You know, the Quran, the miraculous aspect of the Quran is this, that it can be memorized so easily. Why? Because Allah Himself says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ. That is the miraculous aspect of the Quran. This is why we find children who cannot even speak their mother tongue, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, they are able to memorize the Quran. Now these were books on different sciences. On top of this man was a man of many works, his commentary on Tirmidhi being one of the most famous. So when he was on the point of death, now you can sort of get a rough idea of the caliber of the man, or the worth of the man, or how big of a scholar this man was. When he's on the point of death and he's asked, who will now take your place, what do you think will be the status of that scholar or that individual the great Iraqi makes a mention of? And then realizing that the scholar that he's making a mention of, in terms of knowledge, he's only a child. Let me give you an example in boxing terms, or football terms. So you had the great Muhammad Ali. The great Muhammad Ali. And everyone knows about his greatness in the field of boxing. One of the greatest, if not the greatest boxers the world has ever seen. If Muhammad Ali was questioned on the point of death, who have you left behind you? What would you think would be the status of that boxer that the great Ali himself makes a mention of? And then let us say this boxer that the great Ali makes a mention of, in terms of boxing, he's still a child. He's only 16 years of age. And Ali is saying, okay, after me, this is the man the eyes should be watching. And let us say this boxer that Ali makes a mention of surpasses the great Ali himself. What would you say to me then? This is exactly what the great Iraqi was saying. Because this man that he made a mention of, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, not only surpassed the great Iraqi, not only did he surpass the expectations of the great Iraqi, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani even surpassed his own expectations. And why do I say this? Because the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani would always admire the great Zahabi. And he would dream of that status that Allah had bestowed upon the great Zahabi. So much so, when Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani performed Hajj in the 800th year of Hijrah, and he drank Zamzam, you know the dua that he made was this: Oh Allah, I beg you, give me the same status that you bestowed upon the great Zahabi. This is what he would dream of. This is the status that he'd want. And very soon you're going to get to know who the great Zahabi was. So this is the dua that he made. He says, 20 years after this, after making this dua, after having Zamzam, 20 years after this, I came for Hajj another time. And this time, he says, فَوَجَدْتُ مِن نَفْسِي طَلَبًا مَزِيدْ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. He says, I felt within my heart, this time, that now I should ask the Almighty Allah for a status higher than the one that I asked Him on the previous occasion. He says, that's what I felt within myself. So what I did was, I asked Allah after drinking Zamzam for a status higher than the one that I previously asked Him of. And I have hope in Allah that I will achieve and get to that rank and achieve that status. Never mind hoping, the great Sakhawi, a master of many books, Shafi'i school of thought, says, he achieved that status. Meaning he surpassed the status of the great Zahabi, and many people have witness to the fact that he achieved that status. Remarkable. Allah had blessed this man with such intellect that in spite of the fact that he was an orphan, his father died at the age of 4. His mother died before this. Just like his Ustadh memorized the Quran at the age of 8, the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani memorized the Quran at the age of 8. At the age of 12, he's standing in Masjid al-Haram on the Musalla and leading the believers in the Tarawih prayer in Masjid al-Haram. He was not just Hafiz of the Quran, he was the Hafiz of the Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they gave the title Hafiz to any scholar that knew 100,000 plus Hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in and out, sanadan, matanan, jarhan, ta'deelan, tarikhiyan. Not only was he a Hafiz of the Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the man knew books after books off by heart. He knew the Minhaj al-Wusul of Baydawi off by heart. He knew Umdatul Ahkam off by heart. He knew Al-Hawi al-Saghir of Qazwini off by heart. He knew a book on Nahwa of Sahib Maqamat al-Hariri off by heart. He knew the Alfiya of Iraqi off by heart. He knew Alfiya of Ibn Malik in Nahu off by heart. He knew the Tanbih of Shirazi off by heart. You know, the man had, if I were to say the man had a photographic memory, I wouldn't be lying. Why? Because when you want to memorize something, he wouldn't memorize like you and I memorize today, what is known as the repetition fashion, or what you call the parrot fashion. When he wanted to memorize something, all he would do is this. He would focus, he would concentrate, and after that he would present it from his memory. When he was working on Al-Hawi al-Saghir, what he would do was, he would work on a page. After having worked on a page, he would then read the text by focusing and by concentrating. And after he read the text by focusing and by concentrating, the third time he would present it from his memory. This is what he do. Anything that he would ever want to memorize, this is how he would do it. Focus, concentrate, and then present it from his memory. The great Sakhawi, he relates an incident which shows how Allah blessed this man. He says, on one occasion we asked our Shaykh Zayd al-Iraqi with regards to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-mukatibu kinnun ma baqiya alayhi dirhamun. We asked him this question, man sahahahu, who has authenticated this hadith? And he says, our Shaykh said, I don't know. He says, on the same day we met the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and we asked him the exact same question, who has authenticated this hadith, al-mukatabu kinnun ma baqiya alayhi dirhamun? And the author goes and he makes a special mention of this fact, that at the time when this question was posed to him, there was not a single white hair in his beard, and what he was saying was, in terms of knowledge, at the time Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani was still a child. From the top of his head there and then he said, صححه ابن حبان والحاكم من حديث عبد الله بن عمر وهما في كتب شيخنا ثم عين له مكان الحديث. The Ibn Hibban and Hakim has authenticated this hadith from the hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr. This hadith is in the books of our Shaykh, and then he pinpointed where this hadith of Rasulullah was in the books of his Shaykh. You know, on one occasion, he went for Salatul Tarawih in the month of Ramadan. And the great Shaykh, Shihabuddin ibn Asad, before Isha Salah, in front of an audience that was present in the masjid, he was reciting the hadiths of Rasulullah from the work of Hafiz al-Munziri, the At-Targhib wa Tarhib. And this book, my young friends, is like this. And it's in 4 volumes. Each volume is around 500 pages. And Sheikh Shihabuddin, to the audience that was present inside the masjid, was relating the hadiths of this particular book. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani was sitting in one corner and he was just listening to it throughout. Afterwards, when he finished reciting the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the great Shaykh of Islam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said to Shaykh Shihabuddin that it seems that such and such a hadith, and he then mentioned the hadiths, are missing from your version or your copy of this book, At-Targhib wa Tarhib. How can it be? The only way this is possible is if the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the Shaykh al-Islam, knew the 4 volumes of At-Targhib wa Tarhib off by heart. You know what Shaykh Shihabuddin said to him? O Shaykh al-Islam, they're not missing from my book. I left them out purposely because I could not recall the correct pronunciation of the words at the time when I was reciting them. Allah bless this man in every aspect, so much so that he could have the hadith of Rasulullah being recited upon him, and at the same time he could write fatwas and he could write books without ever losing focus on any one of the two. But if you will find narrations like this, that he's writing books, the hadith of Rasulullah are being recited upon him, and while this is happening, he's writing his book, and at the same time, he's rectifying the reciter that is reading the hadith of Rasulullah upon him. The great Qadi al-Qudat, Chief Justice of his time, Al-Badr ibn al-Tanasi, he relates. He says, I would come to Shaykh al-Islam ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, and I would make qira'ah, I would recite the hadith of Rasulullah to him, and what I would find is that the great Shaykh, every time I came, he would continue writing his books. And he wouldn't pay any attention. And I would think to myself, I come from so far and wide, and I put so much effort, and every time I come, the Shaykh is occupied and he's always writing. It's so possible that I might be making mistakes in the hadith of Rasulullah. So I said, I felt so hurt and so saddened that this man has no regard for me. So what I said to myself was, you know what, I'm going to purposely make mistakes. He said, this is a thought that crossed my mind, and I actually implemented this, and what I did was, I decided to make a mistake, and I read the text of the hadith wrong. He says, as soon as I read the hadith wrong, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani raised his head, and he said, repeat what you've just recited. He says, this time, I read the text right, and he lowered his head again. He says, from that instant I realized that this man's mind is always present, even though he may be writing. You know, you talk about reading the Quran fast. Allah has blessed him with this, with such a tongue, that he was able to recite the hadith of Rasulullah like no other man. The Sunan of Ibn Majah, he read in 4 majlises. The Sahih of Muslim, he read in 5 majlises. Al-Nasai al-Kabir and the Sahih of al-Bukhari, he read in 10 majlises. And each majlis was about 4 hours. He read the Al-Mu'jam al-Saghir of Tabrani, which is in one volume, contains around 1500 hadiths. With the Sunnah and Matan, he read that in one majlis from Zuhr till Asr. With this, Allah blessed him that he could write like no other human being. He wrote a Taqeed of Ibn Nuqta in 5 days. Taqeed of Ibn Nuqta in 5 days. Allah blessed him so much that, my friends, he wrote 270 works. 270 works he wrote. He wrote on every aspect of Islam. Every aspect of Islam. And if you just want to make a comparison of the caliber of the man, what I will say to you today is, you will find a book today called Al-Mu'jam Al-Mufahris Li-Alfaz Hadith Nabawi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This book was first printed in 1936. It's in around 7, 8 to 8 volume, depending on what pen you've got. And this book basically is a dictionary of the Hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam for around 9 books. Now this book was written by a group of Orientalists with the help of the great Sheikh Muhammad Fuad Abdul Baqi, and it was first printed in 1936. And it took this whole Jamaat of scholars well over 20 years to write just this one book. And alhamdulillah, it's an absolutely superb book. And to get this book to its printing stage, they had help from different governments and different educational institutes. From England they had help from Sweden, they had help from Holland, they had help from Denmark. So many scholars, so many masters, over 20 years of effort, so much money has been invested, and they've come out with one work, Al-Mu'jam Al-Mufaris Al-Alfaz Hadith Nabawi. Put them on one scale, and you just have one Ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani who has come out with over 270 works. 270 works. And if you look at his books, you'll understand the caliber of the man. Nearly every book of his was like a masterpiece. I mean, just his book, Fatawa Shahr, Ajab al-Dahr min Fatawa Shahr, he wrote in 1 month. His book, Taghliq al-Ta'liq, Taghliq al-Ta'liq. In that one book alone, he's made a reference of over 360 books. 360 books. If you look at his commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari, known as Fath al-Bari, and this is one of the best, if not the best commentaries ever written up to this day, and it'll probably remain like this right till the day of judgment, if it's not the best commentary to be written on Sahih al-Bukhari. Balki Jalaluddin Suyuti goes as far as saying, لم يصنف أحد في الأولين ولا في الآخرين مثله. No man, no from amongst the former and no from amongst the latter, has ever written a book like the Fath al-Bari of the great Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. If you were to open that book, you will realize the worth and the value of the man. When the great Shawkani was questioned, and this was the request that was put forward to him, is, we want you to write a commentary on the Sahih al-Bukhari. You know what the great Shawkani said when this request was made to him? He narrated the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, La hijrata ba'da al-fath, that there is no migration after Fatih Makkah. What he was referring to was not Fatih Makkah as in the conquest of Makkah. He was referring to Fath al-Bari of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Okay, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani has already conquered Bukhari. There is now nothing left for anyone else that he can do with Sahih al-Bukhari. The question that I want to ask you is, why is it that this man who was an authority when it came to religion, he was an authority when it came to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the man who understood hadith so much that he was able to write the Fath al-Bari, which is the best commentary ever written on Sahih al-Bukhari, and there is not a scholar on planet Earth which can do without this book. Why is it after possessing so much knowledge, the man followed the Shafi'i school of thought? Why did he do taqlid? Why was he a muqallid?
Deen over dunya.
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 Deen over dunya show. Deen over dunya show. I am Sister Aisha and this is the Deen over dunya show.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What you just heard was a lecture by Sheikh Ahmed Ali on Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, one of the great scholars of the Islamic past, alhamdulillah. This will conclude this particular show. This week's lineup, we will have The Art of Spiritual Warfare with Imam Hanif Abdul Ali tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I believe. Tuesday, we will have Should Imams Have a Degree in Counseling to Give Counseling? We have our guest Sahir Muhammad on from brother from Cuba Institute, inshallah. Wednesday, we will have The Misguidance of the Salafi Minhaj Part 1. That will be a 4-part series, inshallah. And Thursday, we will have Muslims who go to nightclubs and smoke weed and sell drugs. So this is the lineup, inshallah. We will continue the lineup Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I will let you know what those shows coming on, inshallah. I want to thank all the listeners for listening in to the Deen Over Dunya show. If anyone want to donate to the Deen Over Dunya show, you can go to paypal.com and send a donation. Sadaqah to Deen Over Dunya show at yahoo.com. That's DEENOVERDUNYASHOW at yahoo.com. Deen Over Dunya show at yahoo.com, inshallah. If you live in Philadelphia, we'll be selling our CDs. I believe this week, inshallah, you can contact us at deenoverdunyashow@yahoo.com. If you want us to bring CDs to your particular neighborhood or your house, we make home deliveries, mashallah. So I want to thank all the people again for participating in the Deen Over Dunya show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
From his knowledge, because the woman knows the importance of forbearance. And the murabbiya of the Prophet is Halima, is the woman of Hilm. You see,